Hello everyone and welcome along to your latest edition of the TII Sunday session. My name is Craig Dennett and I'm your host this evening, and to look back on what's been a very, very busy week for Rangers that couldn't even be stopped by Elon Musk messing about with Twitter. I'm joined by Jock. First of all, how are we doing, Jock?
Not too bad. Just looking forward to getting the first one of the season.
Absolutely. It's always good to get back on the pod after a wee break for summer, and we're joined by the managing editor, Tommy. How are we doing, Tommy?
I'm very well, thank you. Yes, it's good to. I think this is my first pod of the season, so yeah, it's good to be in amongst it.
Absolutely. There's plenty for us to discuss. There's been new signings this week with Abdallah Sima. There's been progress on another one with Cyriel Dessers. There's been rumours abound about the club speaking to Danilo from Feyenoord. There's a fourth signing or a fourth player that we're after that we're not entirely sure exactly who it is. So we'll have a wee bit of discussion around that one. As much as we've seen plenty of incomings now, we'll also look at the outgoings as well. I imagine there's going to be plenty of those. We even saw a rumour today of Yanis Hadji to Aberdeen, which we'll discuss in depth and at length at some point in the podcast. And so much happened this week that I actually forgot that the fixtures came out only on Friday there. So we'll talk about that as well and the start to the season and where our sort of expectations sit now that we know who we're playing and when we're playing them. So first of all, Abdallah Sima joined on a season-long loan from Brighton, Jock. It was one that was kind of came out of nowhere the week before and then quickly gathered pace. Right-sided forward. They played against us for Slavia Prague in the Europa League 3 seasons ago. And then he moved to Brighton, spent last season on loan at Angers, and we signed him as one of our right-sided forwards for the coming season on loan. What are your thoughts on the transfer? A couple of days now has passed since he was announced. What are your thoughts on Abdallah Sima joining Rangers?
Yeah, it's good to see another fresh face in the door. I couldn't remember much about him from the Slavia game. Obviously, we played a couple of years ago, so I'll have to do the usual YouTube to go and see what he's been up to since. I know, like last season, he was in a pretty poor Angers team. And I know that the people that are all going on about the stats will probably not be too happy with what numbers he produced. But if you look at the YouTube clips again, which is almost we've really got to go on, he looks like somebody who's got plenty of ability. He's pretty pacey, he's pretty direct, he's tall. There's a lot of mentions about his neck size on Twitter for some reason whenever it works. He's, from what I see, he looks to be a good sort of all-round forward type player. He'll definitely give us a different threat on that right-hand side, so it's good to see.
Tommy, the right side of that forward three, I guess, has been an issue for many since Daniel Kindeas left, but for many it's been an issue for much longer than that. Do you think Abdallah Sima has the promise, I guess, to fill that gap that there's been?
Well, he's definitely the promise, and you know we saw him when we played Slavia, as you've referenced there. He's a really good player. I think the fact he can play on the wing, but he can also come in, is exactly why Brighton had paid the money they had for him. He's an international. He's got a really good kind of background. I think he's an upgrade on anything we've had out there, and I expect him to be the type of loan that can hit the ground running. To be honest with you, I don't think he's a right magic. You go and develop this player for us type of scenario when he gets maybe the odd game in a cup or something like that. I reckon he's going to force himself into being a starter pretty quickly. He's got a good physicality about him. He's actually got an incredibly good work rate as well, and he's someone who I think will really make a difference this coming season. I think he's only, off the top of my head, I think he's 22.
Yeah,
but he's played at a particularly high level. He's been in around not only teams at the top of their particular leagues, etc., in terms of Slavia, but then got the big move. He's also played in Europe. So he's exactly the type of player that we'd want to be seeing. What's not particularly clear is whether there's any sort of buy clause in there. I'm not entirely sure there would be at this point in time. I think Brighton would like to hedge their bets and they've got a particularly good recruitment cycle, obviously, with the technical director sitting on top of it, David Weir.
Yeah, Tommy, I want to pick up on that one actually, because that was going to be my next kind of question on that one. In terms of, by all accounts, going by reports on Brighton's side, there's no option to buy in there. We've seen in recent seasons that's been made a priority in Rangers' transfer strategy around whenever we take a player on loan, we're not just developing a player for a season and then sending them back to his parent club a better player. We're always giving ourselves that opportunity to, if there is success at Rangers, the opportunity to buy. We've seen a bit of a strange situation with Malik Tillman at the start of this summer, that we had the option to buy, but then it changed somewhat. How do you feel about not having an option to buy, but having a player on loan? Is it just part and parcel? If we want players of a certain quality, then we need to accept that sometimes from English Premier League teams, from teams in leagues in the top 5. Is it more a case of we've only got so much of a budget, but we potentially need more players than the budget can cater for, and therefore having some loans like Sima, who's obviously a good player, to fill a gap for 12 months, and then we go spend money in that position in a year's time? Is that more of the angle you think it might be?
It's all of the above, and before I break down into them for any of the listeners or watchers there, that was a polite Tommy, stop blowing up my agenda questions there. That was me getting a telling off from Craig, if anybody picked up on it. See, this is how I really get treated in the background, even though I'm managing Ed, right? This is what they do to me. But yeah, listen, it's all of the above there. So in terms of prioritisation, you're looking to spend your capital, spend your money wherever you've got it for the real headline acts. Now, Rangers know that they need to spend money in forward and midfield position. We can talk about left centre backs and all that later on in the pod, right? But that's where the money and where the real work had to be done. So then you start to say, right, where else do I need? I need to spend the money there. I've got a finite amount of money, same as any club, right? Who else can I bring in to do that job for those 12 months, that season that you're talking about? Then you identify a player who's going to be a starter, who's going to add value. And I think Michael Beale's been very clear about that. He's not interested in veterans and crops and end of season or end of career. He's interested in players who lift the quality of the squad and can be starters, right? And Rangers, by and large, over the past couple of seasons have suffered from players coming in who haven't been able to be starters, and they've then just padded out the squad. So then you enter negotiations with the parent club, so to speak, and you're trying to build a relationship at the same time there. So it's not a negotiate and die scenario, it's a negotiate and see if we can live. And we can live with the fact that Sima comes in with no immediate buy clause, but he does a job for us for 12 months. All parties might get something out of it, and then that's fine. With the Tillman situation, we got to a different place. We were able to negotiate the clause, but also negotiate the back out clause, which Bayern obviously triggered at some point. It's, you want, in an optimal position, you want to have first dibs, right, and have that number sorted. But ultimately, what you want more than anything is to get the player in the door. Rangers have done that. The other part can take care of itself. Ultimately, a really important part that lots of people seem to miss sometimes with those particular stories, and I don't want to give this too much length, but the player comes. I'm not entirely convinced that Malik Tillman was sold on Glasgow or anything like that either. So it could be that Sima comes and says, that's the place for me. Actually, Brighton, I'll speak to my agent, I would like it if you made that happen. Or indeed a player comes, does the job and says, right, now my efforts go back to breaking into Brighton and getting into the Premier League. So people tend to forget the player in this. They only ever think about, all right, the two clubs have agreed a fee and a buy option, therefore it must happen. The player doesn't really need to get pushed out the door in any way, shape or form. So yeah, ultimately, we needed somebody to uplift the quality in that place. We've got a really good player. He's looking to really deliver, so his parent club sees him. It's a win-win all round. The negotiations, if it comes to it at the back end, personally, I think he'd be priced out for us, right? The negotiations at the back end would take care of themselves. Right.
Yeah, it's hard to disagree with that. I've got plenty of comments coming in. Please continue to share your views, whether you agree, disagree, kind of in between with us. Share your views, and we'll try and bring as many onto the screen as we can. Jock, I'm going to ask you the same question, just around that option to buy side of things. Where do you sit on is that a preference for you that we would have that option to buy if we're taking a player on loan?
I think Tommy's pretty much covered everything, really, what I was going to say.
Sorry, Jock, I've done you no favours there whatsoever.
No, none at all. Obviously, like I say, in an ideal world, you'd want the option to buy, because the guy's obviously, he's as Tommy says, he's lifting the level up a bit. He's the sort of player you're going to expect to come in and hit the ground running. So that's the sort of player we want to have on a loan with an option to buy at the end. That's not there, so maybe from Brighton's point of view, maybe they're hoping he does what Malik Tillman did, come in and have a great season and increase the interest in him coming into the last year of his contract. I think it's a year left after this loan, so it's only going to we're putting them in the shop window. But if we can benefit from that as much as possible, whether it be trophies, whether it be league position, Champions League, whatever, that's really what we're looking from a loan like that. So he's a Premier League quality player. Instantly, he's going to improve what we have and what's been out the door. So disappointed the option's not there, but it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think it's a really positive signing, and I think that whether it's because we need a stopgap effectively before we're able to spend the money we want to spend in that position for next season, or whether it's actually Abdallah Sima is such a high quality player that it was a no-brainer to get him in the door. Either way, I'm happy with him as a signing. And our very own Andy Anderson's in the comments, and he says if we win the league with good Euro nights, he'll want to sign for us, cause or not. I imagine that even if he does want to sign for us, that a price tag from Brighton of £15 million upwards might be a bit of a stumbling block, but we'll come to that next summer anyway. And we'll go on to Blue Nose John, who says, good to see you guys on tonight. The summer is boring without Rangers. It absolutely is. I think we're only 2 weeks away now from the first pre-season friendly, and yes, absolutely roll on the team being back on the pitch at Ibrox. Moving on to the next point, and Jock, I'll stick with you for the first question on this. Cyriel Dessers deal looks to be close to completion. There was a report, I believe, the week before last that said it looked as though it was dead in the water, and many people on social media, and social media is only a very small portion of Rangers fans, and it is important that we do remember that. And there's thousands and thousands of others who are not on social media, but it's good to take a little bit of a barometer from that. Social media kind of jumped on the board a bit for that one, and we're saying, we're back to the old days of an expensive player, and we're not willing to stump up the cash for him and all that sort of stuff. Well, it appears that we are indeed willing to stump up the cash. Fabrizio Romano reporting on Friday that a deal has been agreed between the two clubs for approximately £4.5 million. And all the documents are being drafted, which suggests it will be completed early this week, if not by the middle of this week. Jock, we knew we needed a striker, at least one striker, hopefully two strikers, but at least one striker heading into this summer, and one that knew how to find the back of the net. Cyriel Dessers, Nigerian striker, he's played for clubs like Feyenoord, like Genk. He's with Cremonese just now in Italy. What are your thoughts on him as a signing?
Yeah, it's to me it's a positive signing, because he's got a range of experience across multiple leagues, which is going to work in his favour. He's got that European experience as well. Again, without knowing too much about him, he was the first name that sort of came out at the start of the transfer window, really. So he looks to be sort of Beale's number one target for that position. So the board are going after him. Like you say, the social media aspect, whenever it did come out from questionable sources that it was all off, there was folk quick to jump on and jump over the board, and here we go again, this same sort of scenario, we're not willing to back. But like you say, looks as though we are. We've struck a deal. Transfer negotiations, this is what happens. Two parties come to the table and work things out. Seem to have got there. Again, have to refer to YouTube to look at the guy. From what you see, looks strong, aggressive, likes to roll defenders, likes to hold the ball up, likes to run in behind the back line. Seems to do a hell of a lot more than what we've had up front in the past. Sort of, more dynamic. So again, it's another fresh face. It's something that we've been crying out for. And again, this is Beale's buzzword is energetic, and this guy does look to be energetic. So this is, again, it can only be a positive. This is who Beale's picked as his man, and this is who he wants to lead the line, and we have to get behind it 100%.
Yeah, I have to agree with that one. I think my position on it currently is I'm on the fence with it, but when I was doing some research with for the pod tonight, it was actually interesting looking into his background and how many games and goals he's scored. Tommy, I'll come to you after this, but just some of the stats from his most recent clubs. He seems to have built his career in Belgium and Holland. He started out at NAC Breda, 36 games, 22 goals. Went to Utrecht, 40 games, 12 goals. Then to Heracles, 26 games, 15 goals. He was at Genk, 38 games, 10 goals. A season on loan at Feyenoord, 27 games, 9 goals, including being top goal scorer in the Conference League that season. And then most recently, Cremonese, who I believe were relegated from Serie A last year, 26 games, 6 goals. Tommy's scored goals wherever he's been. He's got a pretty good record, somewhere between 1 and 2, 1 and 3 between all those clubs he's been at. Not all of them are clubs that play on the front foot every week. So there's quite a few in there who are towards the bottom of the league that they play in, or a sort of mid-table side of things. What do you make of the profile of his signing, his career, and what do you make of the £4.5 million fee as well?
And I think off the top of my head as well, I think in that Conference League season for Feyenoord, it was 10 and 13 was his ratio. If I remember correctly from doing my stats earlier on today. Yeah, listen, there's no doubt that he's been the key part of Michael Beale's shopping list for one of it. It was never really away. All the Rangers aren't willing to go there and pay the money, etc. There was just negotiations behind the scene. This one's always been running. Michael Beale was really insistent, or has been insistent, that this is the one that Rangers have looked to get over the line. It looks as though it's edging there. I think, again, he's an international. Off the top of my head, again, I might be incorrect with this one, but 4 caps, 1 goal for Nigeria, something like that. Even though he was born in Belgium, he was chosen Nigerian citizenship to play at the national level. He's 28, so he's at a good age, I suppose. You could maybe debate what the sell-on value would that be, post 29, 30, etc. But you need a bit of experience up there as well. Actually, maybe people are missing. Whilst he's played the majority of his games as a centre forward, he can actually play as the second striker, if you like, and he can play left and right. He can actually play right across the forward line. And Michael Beale has spoken about, since he came in the door, chaos up front, creating chaos when it comes to opposition teams, players being able to switch in and out of positions, being able to migrate across to bamboozle defences and make them stretch their lines. He's a player that plays into that. Actually, I think Jock had nailed it as well, which is when you watch him, he's a physicality striker as well. And we're all forward facing here, but one of the things really important that we didn't miss was, with Alfredo Morelos leaving, right? You can debate the merits or non-merits of Alfredo Morelos across the course of his Rangers career, etc. But the physicality that he could bring on his day would really pull defences apart. Dessers seems like he's got some of that in abundance as well. I like the fact that he's able to mix it up, to drag pairs. Some of the clips I've watched and some of the analysis folk that I've spoken to in the background say that he's really, really good up against 2. He can actually really work it, and he's going to find that's a lot of what happens in Scotland, which allows the rest of the attacking players that Michael Beale was talking about and some of those midfield runners to get on get on behind them. So yeah, Michael Beale's put a lot of stock in him. The scouting and analysis teams have obviously backed that. The board have backed it. They've went in and have iterated the checkbook, so to speak. The player seems like he's, by all accounts, that he wants to be here now. It's just about getting over the line. I would expect that one to be fairly soon, actually. Somewhere there's a scarf being ironed, if that's what they actually do. So I would expect that's one to be done over, and I think he looks like an exciting player actually that can lead our line pretty well.
Yeah, I think when I've seen the video, especially of the goals from the Conference League run that he had with Feyenoord, when he did break that record, set that record, since it was the first season that the competition ran. I think the type of goals he scored and his ability to capitalise on defensive mistakes, but also to create space in the box was really impressive. So hopefully those are some attributes he brings he brings in. Just in the comments, we get Darren Knox saying Dessers is physically strong and works hard pressing opponents' defence. I think that's what we've seen in that video. Hugo Bayer saying that the forward line was top priority given how lacklustre we were last season. Absolutely, the forward line had to be top priority. Jock, I think that's where I expected. I think I've said in a few of the pods now, towards the end of last season and then into this sort of early pre-season, that the forward line is where I expected the vast majority of money to be spent. £4.5 million is probably about average for what I expected it to be on the front line. We'll come on to speak about potential further additions to that forward line shortly, but the £4.5 million it's not a huge fee in today's football, but it's a big fee for Rangers and going by recent years. Would you expect him to be our starting striker based on that fee alone?
Not necessarily based on the fee alone, but for what he brings to the table, absolutely. And with the quality he's going to have around him and the service he's going to get, he's going to thrive. I think looking at reports and digging around sort of website analysis on Dessers, it's last year he was in a team fighting relegation, so it seemed to be a sort of, it was mentioned on here before, it's like long ball football, feeding off scraps, and you know what the Italian league's like. It is quite defensive at the best of times, so it's he's always going to be up against it. Different now he's come to Scotland. Yes, he'll be up against that at Ibrox, the usual back flat five low block that they're going to come against, but he's going to have more creativity. There's going to be more control of the ball. There's going to have more possession, and the way he can manipulate defenders, especially role defenders, will be key to making gaps and spaces for other players in our team to exploit. So not necessarily worried about the £4.5 million fee. It's the sort of table we're sort of dining at now. And it's good to see that we're back there. If we can go and spend, if we can start bringing in players like that and turn them over for profit, or bring the younger players in and turn them over for profit, we can start expanding that. And that's the goal. That's really where we do sort of be heading if we want to keep pushing forward.
Absolutely. We knew there needed to be a rebuild this summer. It was made very clear, even from the point Michael Beale came in December, I think it was, and it was clear that we needed a rebuild of the squad this summer. I guess it was still that overhang from the 55 season. There were so many players in the squad. There's still so many players in the squad from that era that need to be shipped out. I think I would expect a few to be, and we'll go on to talk about that in a bit. But it's good to see this freshness coming in. It's good to see a bit more physicality coming into the team as well. I think we're a bit of a soft touch sometimes when and in the SPFL that's not what's required, especially when you've got those tough away games as well, where you're up against a team that's sitting with two backs of five and they're not up for moving at all. And we can't forget the fact that we send so many crosses into the box, and we're sending so many crosses into the box to absolutely nobody. So that some of that physicality and that height as well will be really positive. I think the £4.5 million fee is hopefully the sort of level of fee that we'll continue to play at as we go forward. Tommy, just before Dessers, or the confirmation that Dessers was almost on his way came through, there were reports from Holland, I believe, saying that Rangers had made an official formal bid to Feyenoord for Danilo, 24-year-old Brazilian forward. It was said that the clubs were some way apart on the valuation. Since the Dessers stuff has been clarified, a lot of fans felt that that must be the Danilo stuff put to bed, so to speak. Reports have come out since then to say no, Rangers are still in the hunt for Danilo, and those negotiations are still ongoing. To me, that's a real positive to hear that we've got a striker at a decent fee, but we're going for another one of similar level, different style of striker. Is that something that you expected, or is it surprised you a little that we're potentially looking at £9 to £10 million on two strikers?
Not surprised me in the slightest. Actually, I think you've referenced there that Michael Beale was talking about it. Actually, Stuart Gibson, when we sat down with him, the investor, and interviewed him, spoke about Rangers having to spend quite a bit of money this summer, and it wouldn't be £1 or £2 million players. It would be
bigger, we've seen transformation at the boardroom, transformation across the club, and an uplift of this squad. So there absolutely had to be money spent. I think we've been quite canny with some of the players that we've brought in already for some of the fees that we've been able to negotiate, notwithstanding people like Kieran Dowell, etc., and all that on threes as well. So yeah, money has to be spent, and we know that we had an over-reliance on essentially one player really up front, and then we've ripped that model up and we've invested heavily. So you've got Lammers, Dessers, Sima looking at something else there in terms of Danilo or someone else. The club are keeping their options open, and they're willing to spend money if players can become available at the right price. I mean, these are not controversial statements, so to speak. Every player is a price, and Rangers have some good targets in there. I think if they could get Danilo as well, I think everybody would be fairly happy with that, with also the likes of Lawrence, etc., to come back, and Hagi, unless he decides that Aberdeen are a bigger club, because somebody's bopped him on the head or something like that, and he wants to join Hallucination FC, then I think we're going to see the best of him as well coming back after he's such a long injury layoff. I really can't walk past that Hagi Aberdeen rumour. By the way, I don't know.
We'll come to that. You all get your chance to have a say on that one.
Okay, that's my second warning. That's my official yellow card from the pod there to not jump ahead of the agenda. But listen, yeah, Rangers are active in a lot of conversations at the moment. Some of them instigated by the club, some of them instigated by other clubs and agents, etc. Players want to come to Rangers. That shouldn't be forgotten about. But yeah, it's not surprised me that Rangers have money to spend. That was known, and the strategy's been in place, for a while. They knew they just had to make sure they got the right man in the dugout. Then they had to move out some players. That was some big decisions to let people like Kent and Morelos, etc., go. I think I said this in our end of season pod. That then allows Michael Beale not just to bring in players at a different calibre, but also to change the way that we intend to play, which talks about your winging in balls, nobody there, etc. I think there'll be much more to Rangers' game this coming season when you start to look at the players and the abilities and skill sets that they all bring. This will not be an identikit Rangers where the ball goes out wide and just gets thrown in. I think we're going to be looking at something tactically different.
Yeah, I really do hope so, and I was encouraged by how we were playing towards the end of last season post-split. It was a bit different to what we'd seen beforehand, and it seemed like the team had basically had to, I think, to use a Geo phrase, had the handbrake taken off. It might not be a Geo phrase, but I think it is, to have the handbrake taken off and to be a bit more creative, and Todd Cantwell was absolutely central to that towards the end of the season as well. Jock, I was going to say Dessers, Danilo was described by an Eredivisie expert in Rangers Review earlier today as an amazing instinctive finisher. Whenever I hear that, the two names that jump to mind from here, Ali McCoist and Chris Boyd. If we're in the market for that style of striker, which sounds very different to the how Dessers is as a player, is that something that encourages you that we'll have, I guess, different styles of strikers that we can call upon to, depending on the situation in the game?
Absolutely. He's Brazilian for a start. What more can you ask for? What more can you ask for? He's Brazilian. A Brazilian at Ibrox, it's not often that happens. So I'm buzzing. I'm genuinely hope we get him, just for the fact that he's Brazilian. But looking at
who's the last Brazilian to have played in? Who's the last Brazilian to have played in Glasgow?
Four, isn't it? Is it four?
Was it?
I'm not entirely sure. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. That's one for the comments. If anyone can tell us who the most recent Brazilians to play for Rangers were, we'll give you a shout out on the pod, and you'll be the master of the Brazilian players for the rest of the season.
There you go. Sorry, Jock, I've interrupted you there, buddy.
No, you're fine. So again, had to go to YouTube again to see what the guy's about. But the first clip I see is him putting in at the top corner for 30 yards. I was like, that'll do me, because nobody in our squad seems to be able to do that, and hasn't been able to do that for about maybe 10, 15 years. So to see somebody shooting for 25, 30 yards is refreshing as a Rangers fan. So again, what the Rangers Review article said about an instinctive finisher, yes, definitely that was one thing I noticed. You know, he could use his head. He was using both feet instead outside the boot. He can pick something out his backside. Is what a phrase I like to use whenever somebody's in the box and they're not really sure what they're going to do. Next thing you know, the ball's in the net. So again, if we get it over the line, I'd be interested to see how he could sort of tear up Scottish football, because I think he'd be the sort of guy that could do it, no bother.
Yeah, absolutely. Just on the chat who the most recent Brazilian was, I know you both saw that it was Emilson Tabari, sorry. Dean Milne was first on that one, so there you go, a shout out for you. Dean, and we can't walk past View Park Loyals in memory here of Marvin Andruzinho, who we all remember very fondly.
Still better than Raphael Scheidt.
Absolutely. Even I might be, so it doesn't say very much, Tommy, to be fair. So.
Well, I was going to say, it sounded like Jock was describing me there at the football when he says, ball's in the box, you don't know what he's going to do, and then it's in the back of the net. Unfortunately, I generally play in defence. So that's maybe why I don't get as many games as I used to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've not seen you play football yet, Tommy, so I'll go by whatever you say on that one.
In that case, yeah, Tommy Dino.
Tommy Dino. I'll give you that one for now. I'm sure someone out there will have seen you play football. Anyway,
it's definitely not good. It's not good.
There were reports from Rangers said that during the week said that they were looking at 4 additions currently to the squad, and then obviously as some players go out, there'll be some that we expect to leave, and there'll probably be some that we don't expect to leave as well that may be on their way out the door. So 4 additions, and then some sort of 1 in, 1 out kind of scenario, I think will be the case. Tommy, I'd assume, going by how the transfer rumours have been so far, that a left-sided centre half is probably where the fourth player will be. Obviously, Cifuentes is largely expected to be on his way to Ibrox this week as well. So the fourth one, I guess, you'd be looking at. We've seen some names thrown around in terms of Trusty, and Panzo as well was another one, left centre half. Is that where you'd expect that fourth player to be? I
do. As a matter of fact, Jay, I think it'll be a defender that comes in. I think we are pretty salted, maybe not the right word, but I think we've invested or looking to invest with some of the names we've spoken about here up top. And then we've got, as I've already referenced, Haji and Lawrence, etc., to come in. I think midfield, you could make an argument even with Cifuentes. We are maybe, and I've obviously been practicing that nice ending to that Cifuentes there. You could argue we're maybe another midfielder light, depending on who goes out the door as well. But I think, yeah, Rangers will spend the money on another defender in there. And then that gives us a little bit of a question mark in terms of who we want to move out, because you're trying to keep the squad relatively balanced and make sure there's some, need to be competition for penalties. Brought in a lot of what Michael Beale should be looking at as starters, right? Those names that we've listed and the players come in should be, starting next season. We should see what that team looks like with Cantwell and Raskin as well. So, yeah, that's what I expect it to be. It's just now about who we can move out. And that's not always easy. Sometimes that's harder than bringing in, obviously, because you've got to find buyers. Rangers aren't really wanting to do business in terms of letting players go. That would be a last resort. So it's trying to move players out at either a reasonable fee or indeed at a lower fee, but with a sell-on clause. And your likes of Rabi Matondos and stuff like that fall into that particular bucket as well. Although I actually need to come out and say that I am a Matondo fan. I think there's a player in there somewhere. I don't think there's many people that would agree with me, but please, if you do, say something in the comments. I don't like being alone, right? So, but you're looking at Kamara, Barisic, etc. There's wages to be freed up in this squad, and some of that comes back to balancing the books anyway. But yeah, that's a really lengthy answer to what should have been a short one, which is yes, left-sided centre back to help. Although I have to admit, and I know Davies got a lot of criticism, I don't think he's a bad player.
Yeah,
I think if he was still in a Rangers jersey, I wouldn't be that particularly worried if he's in and out the squad with Goldson and Sterling and suitor. But yeah, there we are. That's where I think we'll go.
Yeah, I'll put my hand up. I'm with you in terms of I think there's a player in there for Rabi Matondo. He's 22. I just don't think we're in the space or we have the ability to wait for him to find his form or find his game. I think we need someone who's contributing now, and that's unfortunately for Rabi Matondo just not the right time for him. Offer a Hill says that you are in fact alone, Tommy. I've just I guess I've just proven him wrong. Primetime says just about switched off with that Matondo comment.
Well, fair enough. Prime time. Well done for sticking the course, by the way. And at least Del Boy's backing me up.
Yeah, Del Boy's backing you up. I agree. Wee Rabbie needs one more chance this season. And Chris McFarlane's not for it at all. He says Matondo has done nothing to give us hope. Remember that game against St Johnstone in the middle of last season? That's the one thing we can hang on to. Perhaps the Tottenham.
This is what you get, Chris, for saying, Tommy, sit closer to your microphone. The danger is you actually get to hear what I'm about to say. So that's totally on yourself, Chris.
And Alan Brown coming in with a bit of, which is hopefully some good news, just saying rumours tonight saying Panzo deal is done. So that would fill that sort of left centre half role that we were just talking about there. Tommy, your comment kind of takes us nicely on to looking at the outgoings. Obviously, with so many incomings, there has to be outgoings to balance the squad harmony, to balance the wage budget, still keep that quality and depth, but also bring some money back into the club. And that's something that we've been a little bit better at in recent seasons with the likes of Patterson, Bassi, Aribo, etc. But I still think we've got some way to go to be good at, even when players are well out the picture with us, still bring in £2 million, £3 million for them when we sell them on. We do need to be a bit better at that level, because that amount of money does actually build up and can really give us a positive in the transfer committee. So I'll go over some of the players that I guess are widely expected to leave. We spoke about Rabi Matondo. He's reported to being told he can find another club. Scott Wright was close to a move to Preston, I believe, earlier this month. I think Preston are struggling money-wise, so they've pulled out of that deal, but it shows there's interest at that sort of championship level for Scott Wright. Ben Davies is another one, especially since we've been looking at the left centre-half position. Ben Davies is another one that's expected to make his way out the door. Again, I'm with you on that one, Tommy. If he was around next season, I'd be more than happy about that. Glenn Kamara, we all know he reached the end of his Rangers cycle probably last summer, never mind this summer. So I think he'll be on his way out the door. Jock, I think the squad's sitting at over 30 players currently, and that's far too big, and quite a lot of them are on quite hefty wage packets as well on that one. I just realised I've forgotten to even mention the Hadji to Aberdeen rumour. I can't believe after all the chat earlier on that I forgot to mention that one. There's plenty of players in there that we can see going out the door. I guess part of the discussion is that there needs to be someone there who wants them first before we can actually get rid of them or sell them for a certain fee. Are you confident we'll be able to get enough players out the door, and who do you think those players will be that we'll likely see leaving Ibrox this summer?
I definitely think we'll see outgoings. And like you said earlier, it's about getting that money in for them, because it adds to the transfer kitty. I think it's something that Rangers have not utilised well enough over the past couple of seasons. That smaller fees, the 1 millions, the 2 millions. It's always undisclosed. It's always undisclosed. So we can't really sort of count up what either the hit we're taking on players we've brought in and then have come out the door in the last couple of seasons. So we want to see those numbers published. In terms of outgoings, then who do we think's going? Definitely Scott Wright. I think for his own sake has to go and look for regular football. Like you say, championship level team come in, pulled out for financial reasons, so we hope somebody else will maybe come in and take a look at him, because it's just never worked for the guy. He always seen flashes, and especially when we won the Scottish Cup that season. At the end of the season, that was probably the most consistent we've seen him. Just didn't hit the ground running the start of the next season. chat of maybe Barisic going. Barisic, I don't know. There's also chat of Barisic getting a contract extension. So Barisic is still a Croatian international. That's value. So if we are looking to get rid of that, it's we're looking to cash in on that. Again,
he does sit on the bench an awful lot for them. I don't think I've seen him very much in a Croatian jersey.
He's still in the squad. You still tick that international box, don't you?
You're some salesman, by the way, Jock. Remind me not to buy a car off you. Right? Yeah. I get your point, but that would maybe be the optimal time, though, Jock. I actually do get your point. Maybe this is the optimal time to cash in. It's the last chance to cash in on Barisic being a Croatian international.
He was at the World Cup as well.
Aye. He's now folding down the way. Aye. Back to yourself, Jock. Back to yourself.
Again, there's Čolak. There's a lot of rumours of Čolak going out the door as well. There's an influx of players that are coming in up front. We still have Roof as well. Whether anybody takes a look at Roof with his injury record, again, it's kind of up in the air. I still think I'd take Roof over Čolak because I think he's a more intelligent striker. He brings more to the table. Like Sakala as well. Hadji again, the Hadji Aberdeen room, wherever that came from, I don't know. But if they're willing to pay £3 million for him, I'd drive him up to Aberdeen myself.
If it's Aberdeen, we're adding about £3 million extra onto it. They do it to us, so might as well do it back to them.
I think
you can't play against us.
Yeah, I think Aberdeen's chairman was probably just after his autograph. I don't think
or his dad's.
That's the only signature that they're liable to get. Personally, I think if those rumours have come out of Aberdeen's social media fandom or whatever, they should double check some of those pipelines up there because there's been a chemical spill. Because that is just absolutely off the charts crazy.
Yeah, I think if he's going to end up anywhere, it's going to be Galatasaray, isn't it? He's destined for Galatasaray at some point in his career, and every transfer window they're rumoured to be in for him. I'd like to see him stay and have another season with us and see how he gets on. But I think Hadji is one of the names that will be interesting to watch because I did mention we'll see plenty of players that we expect to go out the door leaving the club, but there may be one or two that we don't necessarily expect, and Hadji might fit into that category. Tommy Dean Milne comes in and he says Rangers need to be brutal with the exodus of players. Barisic, Davies, McLaughlin, Kamara need to go, in my opinion. Do you think we do need to be harsh or selfish, depending on what way you look at it, I guess, in terms of players who maybe don't want to leave, but we just need them out the door? Do you reckon we need to be a bit more streetwise, I guess might be the best way to describe it in terms of how we get players out the door and start trimming that squad? Yeah,
well, Michael Beale's been very clear about this since he came in, and in his recent interview as well, where he spoke about having a trimmer squad. You can't run with a squad at 30, right? We don't need that. We don't want that because then you've got all the problems of keeping everybody happy, and we've got some jersey pads. They are the guys that just aren't going to do the job for us. So, yeah, I mean, whatever word you want to use, being harsh, being brutal, being selective, being streetwise, whatever. Ultimately, it's commercialisation. We need to sell players because we need them out the door. You just go and get the best deal for them. Ultimately, Rangers should always be looking, and we've got a recent example of this, of pressing the button at the right time, right, and getting maximum value. Yes, we made some decisions at a boardroom level with the likes of Alfredo Morelos and Ryan Kent to say, and even Barisic actually, we're not, and Kamara, we're not going to press the button when we could have sold them at probably their optimal peak commercial level, and then they end up leaving for nothing. That's up to the board. They get to make that decision in conjunction with the manager who's aiming for certain targets. Where Rangers need to get better and where we need to see more of is selling players at the right time. At any level, at any number, it's just a case of saying, right, you're not going to do it here. Let's get the best deal for you out the door. But I want to stay. Yeah, but the club doesn't want you. You need to go. And ultimately, every club has to act like that. So I don't think there's anything new there. What Rangers just need to maybe be more overt about is selling players at the right peak time to get maximum market value, which by and large, I know somebody will say probably Bassey to me, right? But that's probably the only example that we have. Maybe Patterson. But by and large, it's been a missed opportunity after missed opportunity after missed opportunity. So yeah, what the players want by and large doesn't matter. Yeah. Clubs make decisions. They sell you It's that simple. That's where we are.
Yeah, Jock, there's a couple of comments coming in asking what kind of fees would we expect for these kind of players. It's hard when there's so many players that are going to be, or we expect to be heading out the door. It's hard to put fees on players' heads. I think Glenn Kamara and Ben Davies, potentially Borna Barisic and Sakala in there as well are probably the four that are most likely to earn us the largest fees out of them all. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, well, you're looking at players who have longevity on their contract. They're going to demand the biggest fees. We're in a situation now where a couple of those players you've listed are in the last year of their contract, so they've got a year left. So the clubs that are going to want to negotiate are going to obviously want to pay as little as possible. So there's going to be to and fro in there. But like Haji, Kamara, international players, not really been doing it. Obviously, Haji's injury, you can give him a bye there. But in terms of Kamara's been a ghost for a year and a half. So the clubs aren't going to come in and pay big money for somebody that's not really kicked the ball for us. So you're going to have to take some in today. We got Kamara by 50 grand. So what's a fair upmark of that? You take a million, look at the percentage in profit you've made from 50 grand. It's crazy. Would you be happy with £1 million? Some people will be happy. Some people be happy enough because he's gone, he's out the door. That money goes towards somebody new. Or people think that's a ridiculous amount of money. You can't keep everybody happy. The important thing is that they get a fair value. The club are happy. The player's happy. He's getting moved on, and we can reinvest the money. Simple as that.
Yeah, I think
just on that. Sorry, just on that as well, because and whilst I think Jock's right, it's all about what somebody will pay for a player. As it is with anything in the world, something is the value of what somebody's willing to pay for it, right? It doesn't always have to be the top line figure that you hear, right? That's why there's sell-on clauses, there's add-ons, etc. It's about maximising what you can get in the moment and what you could potentially get in the future as well. Again, maybe in a kind of reverse order. A good example was the Tillman deal with Bayern. Now, there was maybe always a thought that they might back out of that deal. So you put in a protection clause, a control there to say, right, but we still get something out of it. So we got that player. He did a job for us. He didn't want to come. Bayern wanted to go somewhere else to sell him for a different fee. We still get money. You just play that the different way, which is we can sell you at a lower level, hoping that you will then accelerate through your potential, get a bigger deal, and we get a kickback from it. Sometimes it's not just about in the moment. You need to think about 2 or 3 steps further down the chain.
Yeah, I completely agree in terms of it was hard to disagree with the statement of a player's only worth what another club's willing to pay for him. I did kind of balk a wee bit though when you said £1 million for Kamara there, Jock. I do feel like that's balling it massively, even though he's not really turned up for us the last year.
I'm delighted with that. That's pushed me right off of the Batondo comments. Everybody get Jock, get him.
Yeah, I think given that it was between 6 and 8 million, I think Nice bid for him last summer. I don't think, albeit he's not had a great season, I don't think his value has dropped from that level to £1 million. So hopefully it'll be, I think if we got around the sort of £4 million mark for him, that would be a good deal for us, albeit I don't think it's what his potential should be worth, because I think Glenn Kamara is a cracking player. He's just came to the end of his cycle with Rangers, and it seemed very, very strange that it happened when his 2 mates left in Bassey and Aribo. So it may just be a comfort thing with that as well. But it'll be interesting to see what kind of figures we get for these players. As Jock said, it's always the undisclosed, so you're never quite sure exactly how much. We often have to wait till the accounts come out on that one, but be interesting to see as we go forward on that one. Tommy, I think we've spoken about there's already 4 players in the door. We've spoken about another 4 that are potentially coming in. I think it's fair to say that Michael Beale's been backed and continues to be backed by the board this summer. What that does, though, is it changes the dynamic in terms of the pressure then going on to Michael Beale as we head into the Champions League qualifiers, as we head into the new season. Do you think it's right that pressure's now on Michael Beale, and do you think he does seem like the kind of guy who's willing to take that pressure on and stand up with it on his shoulders and push the team forward?
I'll put the word pressure to one side. Expectation. Michael Beale's been at the club before, part of a title-winning management team. He knows the level of expectation at Rangers, and he knew that before he came back in to take the big chair behind the big desk, or whatever you want to say, to get in the dugout. He's then been, as you say, quite clearly backed towards the tail end of last season with Raskin and Cantwell, and then backed again this summer. So absolutely, there's a level of expectation. That's, you don't take the job unless you can live with that. We know what this environment's like. Should that level of expectation is the level of expectation that we should be fighting for a title and cups domestically next season realistic? Yeah, I think given the level of business that we've done and that we're looking to conclude before the end of the window, I think it absolutely is. I think it's not unrealistic to expect Rangers to be in and around fighting for the title, looking to win cups, etc. Now, obviously, our rivals might spend significantly more money. They've got their own budgets and they've got their own player trading model or whatever you want to call it. But we can only look to ourselves. And I think Michael Beale, by and large, has got exactly what he's asked for and will get what he's asked for. And so, therefore, it's just a case of coming back through that.
Yeah, I think what you said there, Tommy, really, I guess, rings true in terms of Rangers fans always do look at what Rangers could have done better, or what we could do more, or how we could change. I'm going to ask this question. I'll ask it to Jock first, and then come back to you, Tommy. This is a harsh question to ask, especially at this stage. Do you think it's fair? And I know as Rangers fans, we have the highest of expectations, and we believe every competition that we enter, we should be winning, and that the big silver trophy should be waved in front of us by the end of the competition. But do you think, and I'll come to you on this first, Jock, do you think, given the financial disparity that there is between ourselves and the other side of the city currently, and we know there's a big rumoured transfer coming down the line for them as well, and big transfer fee, do you think it's fair that we have those expectations that we're going to win every single trophy next season, and we're going to win in the league is the I guess the be all and end all for that?
I think it's a tough question, that actually. Expectation is every Rangers fans, I want to say experience, but birthright. It's just what we expect. It's what we're growing up with. And I know some of the younger fans have went through the been down the lower leagues and obviously not experienced that. But for me personally, going through the 9 in a row and through the noughties and that, you are expected to, if not win, challenge, show yourself, be at the table at the end of the season, be around in and around about, be in cup finals. And since we've come back up the divisions, it's taken a wee while to sort of get into those cup finals. We're starting to get there, and then obviously we won 55. We should be there more. We as a football club have always been chasing Celtic since we went down in divisions in terms of the revenue and cash streams and their player trading model, because we were those years behind. When we went down, they were selling boys for 10, 12 million plus. Down to the Premier League, they got that up and running. That was higher transfer fees coming in, so they're always going to be ahead. And it's going to take us time to catch up with them in that sense. But we've shown we can compete with the right management, the right players, and we have been able to compete with that. So there's no reason why we shouldn't be expecting. If we trust the board and trust the manager to bring in the right players, we can put a team on the park that can win the league and can challenge Celtic. So the expectations isn't unfair. It's just what we're used to as being part of this football club. Simple as that.
Tommy, I'm going to ask you the same question there. Do you think it's fair that those expectations are there? I believe the expectations will always be there, and I believe it's right that we have those expectations given the history of the club and the stature of the club as well. But do you think in the current situation as we head into the new season that our expectation that to go from a team that didn't win any trophies last season to going to a to being a team that will win the league, or with a lesser budget and with a significantly lesser financial capabilities in terms of the transfer market. Do you think that's fair heading into the new season?
Yeah, I mean, I can give you a much longer answer if you really, really want, but
absolutely, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Listen, money and budgets are really important. Of course, they are, right? And I won't do the cliche of saying, especially in the modern game, because budgets have always been important, right? Since you'd buy and sell players. Tactical awareness, building a really good, strong team ethic and culture, smart recruitment in the free market as well is really important. That's how you iterate a team, and that's how you can accelerate and leapfrog through. It's not always about saying, right, we're going to do nobody in Scotland's ever going to do a Galacticos model. So it is all about getting players in, bedding them in really quickly. One of the good things Rangers have done is early recruitment, both last season, Rask and Cantwell, who are going to be key players. And then within this, then it's about getting them to buy into a philosophy. Then it's about putting them out on the park with a really clear game plan and being able to say, right, these guys will all play for each other and they'll play for the manager, and they can bear the weight of the expectation that we've just spoken about. Now, there's no guarantees, right? Some of those players might fall over. They might not cut it, right? You might have to chop. You might have to change. Some players can just run into really unfortunate things like bad injuries or whatever, right? Luck in some games just doesn't go your way. But everything that Michael Beale has done since he came in, the club size and stature, the player recruitment, the players we already had on the books, because they're not all bad players, right? And the fact that we were actually in and around things last season as well, we didn't finish 6th or 7th here, right? And we were in cup finals and stuff like that as well. So I wouldn't buy anything else other than the expectations absolutely realistic. It's in alignment with the model and where we currently are. It's not based on purely some historical notion that we won stuff in the past. It's a case of we can win now. And if that's not the message that Michael Beale is transmitting into the support, and particularly into the players that he's bringing into the club and into that dressing room, that's a wider problem. I sense it's exactly the message that he's pouring into those players. And I expect to see them go toe-to-toe with all comers next season. So, yeah, I go back to my original answer. Hi.
Yeah, I think I absolutely agree in terms of it being the message that Michael Beale will be sending to the players, especially the new ones that are coming in. I think potentially some of the players, especially last season, I felt it, and slightly the year before, some of the players that have been here for a longer period of time are a bit battle scarred with against those the other side of the city. Whereas having this massive squad revamp, plenty of new players coming in, we saw the likes of Cantwell and Raskin show up in those games last season, second half of last season, particularly the final one at Ibrox. Felt really, it was really positive from that perspective, and there was that change in mentality. There was that positivity around it, and the belief, I think, that we can go in and win every game, no matter who the opponent is, and you could see that from how Michael Beale was setting us up. And I really like how Michael Beale, he has his way that he wants to play. And I guess under Gio last season, people were saying we don't know what Gio's style is. It was changing so much. The players in the starting lineup was changing so much. I think Beale, it's very easy to see what his style is and how it's developed off the back of how we played under Steven Gerrard in 55. But I think what we'll see next season, particularly come to the fore, is the tactical side of Michael Beale and how he can adapt the team to almost pry on the weaknesses of our opposition, or where he perceives those to be. And that's why I think, in terms of breaking down the low block, that's always a concern for Rangers. It's been an issue and more than a handful of games in recent years, but it seems going by the last 6 months of the season last year that Michael Beale knows exactly how to do that. He knows exactly how to adjust the team as we go through the season. So fingers crossed with the new players coming in, with the hope, with what we hope is a build on the quality that we've got on the pitch, particularly at the top end of the park. We will see much more from that side of things, and we will see much more positivity. And fingers crossed, we'll have a big silver trophy next May waved in front of us at Ibrox on the final day of the season. Final point, we've just hit exactly the hour mark of the show. So final point before we start to wrap up is around the fixture announcement, which was made on Friday. Much anticipated, as always, and I think it's fair to say that it's not a random fixture computer generator that creates the fixtures. For all that seems to be a trope that's laid out every single year by fans across the board. It's fair to say it's not a random fixture generator. And actually, the SPFL put out a video this year on their social media channels to highlight all the different considerations that go into creating a fixture list, which was a really good watch. And for once, I'll give the SPFL a wee bit of credit for their content, because that was really interesting and insightful. So I'd recommend going to watch that. Jock, I'll come to you first. The opening run of fixtures, I think, is pretty favourable. The only piece that wasn't, I don't think is highlighted, is the fact that the Old Firm game, the first Old Firm game at Ibrox on the 3rd of September, is the weekend after the second leg of the Champions League qualifiers playoff round. So that's potentially a bit of a tough one for us. But overall, I was happy with our run of fixtures. I believe December is probably the only month that seemed particularly difficult. We're away to Hearts, Hibs, Motherwell and Celtic all in that one month. What was your view of the fixture list and how it landed?
Anytime it comes out, I always start looking for the first match, obviously usually away, and then either the December list or the February list. We always traditionally get sort of a tight run of games, and again we got that. We got that in December. There's opening 3 games: Kelly away, Livy home, and then Ross County away. 9 points. Get 9 points on the board. Get set the marker down early. First Old Firm games after the second leg Champions League qualifier. That'll be our season going on there. It'll be, you'll be third Wednesday, Thursday, or Tuesday, Wednesday, Sunday. It's going to be like that for up until the break anyway. So it's good to get that pattern in, because I think that when we play those games like that, I think we play better in the league, because everybody's pulling towards the same way. It's a team effort, squad effort with the rotation. Everybody knows they're going to get a game, so to me, I think we'll be fine. I think we'll be fine.
Yeah, Tommy, the one that stuck out for me initially from the fixture list, and it's always the Old Firm games that you look at first of all, but these days they kind of tend to fall around the same weekends each season. But that Old Firm game at Ibrox on the 3rd of September is going to be huge, I think, in terms of setting the tone for the season. How important can a win in that first Old Firm game be for Rangers? We always hear that the games aren't, it's not the Old Firm games that decide the title, it's the other 34 games in the season that do. But how important from a mentality standpoint can a win in that game be for us?
Yeah, before that, I'm looking forward to the first game of the season, and players wandering out onto the pitch at Kilmarnock and going, all right, this is the training pitch, where's the real grass? This is funny looking. It's dire that's returned to the top tier of Scottish football, to be honest with you, but it is where we are. Yeah, listen, it's a cliche of saying, right, all Old Firm games are really important, but I think with all the changes, Rangers squads in and out, Celtic making changes, changing their manager as well, so that might mandate a change in their style of play. It really is who's going to get off to the fastest start. So yeah, you can talk about the Old Firm game is really important. Winning every game up to that Old Firm game is also really important. You need to, bank those points. But yeah, I think this one is particularly important for all those reasons I've just fleshed out there, which is putting down that marker, making it 2 Ibrox on a trot as well, coming off the back of last season. The new players being part of a winning mentality straight away. in an Old Firm game, and then pressing the accelerator through that. So, there'll be peaks and troughs and all that type of stuff, and anything can happen. But absolutely, I think it's a key game to put down right, we have upped the ante here, and the level of quality and dynamism and work rate and effort and understanding and belief has absolutely been brought from the tail end of last season as we dominated Celtic at Ibrox into this one, to say right now we're in a position that those big games that we didn't win, we thoroughly believe that we can, and we're going to show that. So yeah, a huge game.
Yeah, Jock, I had a conversation with our very own Scott Cameron earlier on today, and he was speaking about, he was doing his Mystic Meg act, I guess, in terms of looking forward to the fixtures and saying, we should win that one, we should win that one, we should win that one. He actually said to me, is it realistic to expect 30 points from the first 10 games for Rangers, and to set them? He used the word marker as well that Tommy's used there about the Old Firm game. Looking at them, get Kelly away, Livy at home, Ross County away, Celtic home, St Johnstone away, Motherwell home, Aberdeen home, St Mirren away, Hibs at home, Hearts at home on those 10 games. Now, I think it's unrealistic to set off with the expectation, I guess, of us to have 30 points come the first 10 games of the season. But looking at that fixture list, it's there for us to have a go at, and the Old Firm game will be the key game. And that one, I think the fixture list has been kind to us. I know it kind of goes in swings and roundabouts in terms of when you're at home to the majority of the top 6 teams and when you're away to the majority of the top 6 teams. But I think having a lot of them at home in that first round of fixtures can be a real benefit to us and a springboard for the rest of the season.
Oh, absolutely. Like you say, there's a lot of home games in there, and there's no reason why you couldn't hit 30 points. It'd be tremendous if we did. And those are the sort of runs that we, as a football club, need to go on, because that's what wins you trophies. So it guarantees you leagues. If you can go in there 30 points, first 10 games, you're going strong, you're building the confidence. Everybody's chipping in with goals. I don't see why not. We've done it in the past. We have done it in the past. Been a while, but we've done it. Especially under Gerrard, the 55 season, we flew through the first, and we were sure we went that record where we didn't concede any goals. So it can't be done. There's no reason to say why it can't be done. But a big onus on these new guys coming in and hitting the ground running. They're definitely have the talent, they definitely have the caliber of player, what we're looking for to do that. It's up to Beale now, it's up to the team that's there already to gel with these new guys, and the sky's the limit. Yeah.
Tommy, final question to yourself. I'm going into this season, and it seems a bit strange given how last season went, that I'm going into this season with quite a bit of confidence and quite a bit of optimism and quite a bit of hope. Is that how you're feeling as we head into the new season? Is that a bit of blind optimism, blind loyalty on our part, or is it? Do you think we do have legitimate reasons to be feeling that way?
Well, you and all the rest of the guys on the pod group will know that I'm a beacon of positivity at all times. It has to be said on all things. Yeah, of course it is. Right. I mean, even if nothing has happened, you come round to the start of the new season and you're always filled with optimism. Such is the nature of being a football fan, right? Particularly with Rangers. But if you look at everything the club has done, and again, we needed changes at the boardroom level. That's happened. We needed better engagement. That's happened, or that started to happen, and will get better throughout the season. And we needed fundamental change on the park. That's happened, and is happening as well, with more players to come in. So all of the things that we were looking for that are drivers of optimism have happened. So yeah, it's right to say it's going to be difficult. Celtic are a really good side. They've had a really good run, and they're going to invest again. There's nothing controversial wrong with saying that. But we can be optimistic in that, have we done what we could do to get ourselves in the best possible position to be in the fight? Absolutely we have. we've went in there and we've done our business, and we intend to do more business before the transfer window closes. And I think they've been at a good level. So now it's about the players and the management team performing to how they can and helping us drive them forward, and all of that goodwill that's been poured into the squad so far, give us something to get behind, because the Rangers fans will, and then let's see where it takes us. But yeah, nobody should be sitting saying I'm not optimistic, or rather I'd be interested to hear people who aren't optimistic, because it has been a good summer so far. Now let's see how these players can gel, and let's see how we can actually take the fight domestically to teams who think they know how we're going to play and what we can do. It's time to maybe show them a little bit something different.
Yeah, and I'll just round off that with a comment from Ofra Hill that says the number watching the show shows that we're up for it. And yes, to the hundreds of you that have been watching us and joined us tonight and commented, thank you very much. For that, we'll round off the show at that point. Thank you very much to Jock, first of all, for joining us. Cheers, Jock.
Thanks, guys. Just before we go, I just wanted to say, Tommy, I'd totally back you on my Tondo too. I just didn't want prime time turning off.
That's it. I feel that's going to carry me through the rest of the season. If he's still here, I'm going to hear about that comment quite a lot. By the way, you coward, Jock, you absolute coward.
And on that note, Tommy, thank you very much for joining us again. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, listen, fantastic. Looking forward to it. It's an exciting season for the pod and for Rangers. And my thanks go to everybody watching and listening as well. Thanks for being with us.
Yes, thank you all for watching. Please give the video a like if you've enjoyed the content. It really does help us to grow the pod and to reach more people out there and more Rangers fans, which we always want to do, and grow this community of people who enjoy the TII podcast. Remember to subscribe to the podcast as well and turn on those notifications so you get one every single time we go live. In terms of what we've got coming up, Kyle and the team are back on Wednesday with another look. I think we hope we'll have a couple of signings in by then, or they'll be very close to joining us by then. So make sure you're there for all the latest details and chat on Rangers summer transfer activity. And by that point, it'll be less than 2 weeks to the first pre-season friendly, and we're just over. I think it's a month, 3 days officially until the first game of the season, and I, for one, cannot wait. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us, and until next time, goodbye.